going to move on to the next story. Now, the next story was another request. This was from Matthew C. He emailed me about this. It was funny because we were kind of talking about, he was throwing me out the story idea, and he goes, I'm sure you've heard a lot about Crater Lake being in Oregon, but again, I don't have a car, so if it's not within walking distance, it might as well be on the moon, which is a hologram, by the way. I know that in the Dalles, which is probably about 30 miles away from here, it's kind of the home of Bigfoot sightings in Oregon. I guess there was a Bigfoot. I need to go out there and talk to some weirdos. Because apparently there was a Bigfoot, walking by a mobile home complex in the 1970s. Hood River, the only thing I ever came across was once on 4chan. One single reference said in Hood River back in the 90s there was a big black dog, a phantom dog stalking the city. Never found any other information on that ever. Never found. I was going through old news articles. Couldn't find anything on it. Unfortunately, 1990s kind of predates the internet, so it can be tough. But Big Black Dog and Hood River, I've seen some crazy stuff here. I'll go into that later. But to Crater Lake. So we're going back into the future. We are in Oregon. Hey, we're at my house. We got 2,000 people crowded in my house right now. I'm like, hey guys, what's up? How you doing? Don't bump into anything. I'm sorry the place is messy. It's normally not like that. Wink, wink. That's always my lie when people come over. I'm like, yeah, I just unpacked. That's why this place is like this. It's not normally this messy. Fingers crossed me on my back. Anyways, and we're all going to walk out of my apartment. It's going to take a while because there's 2,000 of us. That's my listenership right now, if you can believe that. It's amazing. Thank you, guys. We walk out of the apartment, and we're going to get in the Jason Jalopy. It's the only thing. It's a land vehicle. Carpenter copter still being washed off from the last episode. So going down the road. 10 miles an hour. It's going to take a while. Luckily, we all packed a sack lunch. I hope you did, at least. And we drive all the way up to Crater Lake. Now, Crater Lake used to be a volcano, and the top just blew up one day, and then it became a big crater. It wasn't actually an impact crater. Or maybe it didn't blow up, maybe it imploded. But anyways, the top was gone. And it's funny because in Native American legends, they're always like, oh, that place is cursed, which makes sense, because if your ancestors saw a mountain disintegrate, you would list that on your 10 places not to go. That place is definitely cursed. Crater Lake is only filled with snow runoff and rainwater. It's some of the cleanest water in the world, unless the snow's really dirty, unless dirty people are rolling around in the snow. It's not fed by any sort of streams or underwater wells or anything like that. For the longest time, there was the myth, and up until quite recently, that Crater Lake was bottomless. They never knew how deep it was. It ended up being 3,000 feet deep. It's one of the deepest lakes in the world. And I think it's definitely the deepest lake in North America. Now, you don't listen to this show for history lessons. Hopefully not. So let's get into the creepy stuff. Now, when Matthew C. sent me the email, he's like, yeah, I'm sure you know about all this stuff. And I didn't, so I had to research all this. Some of this stuff that we're going to talk about is just kind of, But, and you're like, don't waste my time, just skip to the good stuff. But it sets the mood for how creepy the area is. Some of it's just that's probably not true. And we end with a truly creepy mystery. And again, you're thinking, just go to the mystery, Jason. Skip all the stuff that you're going is, This isn't this is cool. The Native American legend, there's these two giant gods fighting. And that's what caused the mountain to blow up. And what happened was one of the dudes got his heart ripped out and then chopped into a bunch of pieces and thrown into Crater Lake. And he's just floating around in there. Now, what do you do if your heart's been ripped out and you're a bunch of pieces? You turn into a giant crayfish, apparently. Because for the longest time, the natives had a legend that because it's literally like a crater. It's like you can walk along, be walking through the forest, turn, and then there's a steep drop into the lake. And that's how the first white person almost discovered it. He was walking, he was looking for some a lost gold mine up there, which is another weird story. He gets to the crater, and he has a horse, and the horse stops. And he's thinking, what? Why is the horse stopping? And he looks down, and it's this huge drop into this crystal blue lake. And that was the first time a white person had ever been recorded seeing it. So, quite dangerous. But there's also beaches if you go the right way. But the legend is that late at night, or during the day, it probably doesn't matter, honestly. It's not in my notes that says late at night. But if you're wandering there alone, this giant crayfish will reach out of the water and grab you, drag you underwater. I should say right now, I don't know what crayfish is. But anyways, I imagine it has, claws? In 2002, which is fairly recent, there was a sighting of a creature in the lake, a block long, just under the water. This huge black shape moving under the water. Now, when she says a block long, I imagine it's like a giant rectangle, but it was actually like some sort of sea monster. And she reported it. And people are like, maybe. There are park rangers in the area, though, who that's their beat. That's where they're always at. They're doing their Crater Lake thing. There's an island in the middle of the lake called Wizard's Island. And there have been reports late at night, I know for sure this is late at night, that you would see fires on the island, and park rangers would be like, what? A fire? Like, especially new park rangers. They're like, we better get out there. They hop in the rabbit rowboat. They're all, why is this so slow? Anyways, why does it still have a pirate flag on it? So they pull up to Wizard Island, and there's no fire. They'd also hear people, like, partying deep in the forest on the island. There's no partiers. Then they would go back and tell the other park rangers, the more veteran, the more seasoned park rangers, and they'd be like, yeah, it kind of happens all the time. Don't go out there. It's kind of spooky. Like, you'll see it, and you just kind of ignore it. So even to this day, there's stories of, like, curses and things like that in this area. Now, there is a huge... I was reading the article, and it said, there's an old man who floats in the lake, and I was like, what? There's an old man just floating in there? No, it was a bit misleading. There is a tree called the Old Man. It's just like a tree that broke off, or like from erosion, the entire tree fell into the lake, and most of it's underwater, but the like top is sticking out, a big chunk of it's sticking out. It's been floating the tree has been floating in Crater Lake for about 100 years. It just floats from one end to the other, kind of bobs around, moves around. Now, I guess I should have said earlier, this is a really big lake as well. It's super big. So it's not just like a tiny little lake, which would be technically a puddle. But so this thing floats around. And then I was like, okay, there's a tree that floats around. That'd be kind of cool to see and maybe to like go out to and stand on. And it's like, woo. But there was a story I read. This is where I was like, The scientists wanted to launch a little submarine into Crater Lake to see how deep it was to do some scientific experiments. And they go, well, we don't want the old man to hit our sub. So let's lash it down, bring it to shore, and then we'll let the sub in. And then we'll unlash it when we're done. And when they lashed the old man and they brought it to shore, a massive... Those aren't gunshots, that's lightning. Rain. Coming down. So anyways, they're like, oh my god, we must have angered somebody because this... Now, again, this story involves scientists. The scientists go, oh no, because we lashed this tree down, this storm has come, let's unlash the tree, and they cut the rope, and the tree floated back out, and the storm ended. That story is, I can guarantee you, is 100% made up. If it's not made up, they brought a tree to the shore, a storm happened to develop, which if they were checking the weather, they would have known it was coming. That obviously didn't happen, because if at any point scientists were like, hey, let's just remove this one object from this observational area, and something drastic happened, and then they cut it and it ended, they're immediately going to say, let's do it again. They're not going to be like, must be magic. They're scientists. And I know they might be mad that their lab coats got really wet, but still, you would say, let's do it. Let's just do it again. Let's just see. The scientists would be like, okay. So that story, I was like, that's pretty ridiculous. But I'll take the giant crayfish. I'll take the Wizard Island with the spooky lights on it. Maybe even the sea monster, because why not? It would be kind of hard for a sea monster to get in there, because again, all the water is from snow runoff and rain. It's not being fed by any canals, at least that we know of. But here's an interesting story. 1975. Everyone's kung fu fighting. Disco is king. There's this photographer who's like, you know what I want to do, mom and dad? And they're like, take photos. And he's like, yes, good guess. So I'm going to hop in my Volkswagen Bug, take my camera, and I'm going to go take these photos. They're like, okay, that's what we expect you to do. You're a grown adult, you're a photographer. Why are you telling us? Just leave, just go. He's like, okay. He drives away. Totally disappears. Totally vanishes. And of course, so they start looking for him. He said he was going to be in the Crater Lake area. They start doing searches for him. Can't find him. Now, anytime there's wilderness, it's really easy to die. It's really easy to get lost. If both of those happen, it's very easy for your body to never be found. But a while later, these dudes are walking by. These dudes are hiking. And they see a box canyon, which apparently is a canyon that's a rectangle. I don't know. I imagine that's like a tiny, like, little canyon. It's not like a Grand Canyon. There's only two types of canyons, Grand Canyons and box canyons. Anyways, they find this body laying there in a box canyon. And so they go get the rangers. They're like, oh. And they go and they get the rangers. And the rangers are like, sure, we'll be there right away. First, we gotta lash down this tree for the 10th time and see if a storm develops. They're like, quit messing with the tree, go pick up this body. The Rangers get out there, and they find an incredibly bizarre scene. They find a body, kind of. So imagine a dead person, laying down on the ground, and their back is kind of propped up against a log. So the legs are stretched out right in front of them. Their back is arched up, like back set up against the fallen log, and they're just kind of slumped over. Dead. But erase everything above the ankle bone. It's just completely gone. And you go, well, yeah, if a body dies, there's a chance that he's just going to get scavenged by all the crazy little animals. But here's the thing. Let's go from the top down. Obviously, there's no torso. We already said that person was gone. No t-shirt, nothing. Now, it's common when people are stuck in really cold environments, there's this weird thing where they actually start to feel too hot. Their body overreacts. They start taking clothes off. And it was snowing when he went missing. Actually, 102 inches of snow in that area when he went missing. So he was in an area he wasn't prepared for. But they find this guy, or like I said, what's left of him. So they don't find a shirt. They just find a pair of jeans and a pair of socks, and the feet bones are in the socks. So like the ankle bone and all the little broken pieces of the little toe bones, because they just fall off, are all in the socks. But the pants are still laying there perfectly fine. So like I said, if someone was leaning against a fallen log, and then everything above the ankles just disintegrated and the pants just fell empty. Oh, and a piece of his skull was found farther away. Just a piece. Piece of his skull was found farther away. No other bones, no other flesh, no other blood, nothing. All they found was a pair of jeans, a pair of socks still in the jeans, and feet bones in the socks. Like he had almost melted away. You're thinking, scavengers, Jason, scavengers. The police had a couple weird questions about this. One, where were the shoes? Scavengers don't eat shoes. But again, they go, well, he could have taken them off because he was suffering from this hypothermic delusion where he thinks he's really hot. So he could have taken the shoes off. Same thing could have happened with the shirt. The thing is that he was 12 miles from the trail in 102 inches of snow. So they're thinking, how would he have... He didn't have the equipment to be in the snow. He went up there, it got super snowy, he disappeared. They ended up finding his car, but they didn't find his money with him. Never found his wallet in his pants, and they never found his camera. So the police are kind of baffled. To this day, they don't know if he was murdered and he was robbed and then dumped somewhere remote, and someone took the rest of his body as a trophy. He has the trophy thing wrong. He's like, I really like feet, and I'm a serial killer, and I gotta keep a trophy. And then he gets home, and he's like, oh! He took home everything but the feet. He's like, oh, I can't go back and get it. Left it in that box canyon. They don't know if it was death by misadventure, or they don't know if he was murdered and butchered somehow. But if you think, oh, maybe he just ran afoul of a serial killer, let me tell you about one more inhabitant of Crater Lake. Bigfoot. Bigfoot's been seen there. He's actually a total dick, because this Bigfoot, the Bigfoot in Crater Lake, is known for picking up pine cones and throwing them at you. So, maybe he's just trying to play baseball? Maybe these are special interdimensional pine cones that make you melt everything but your ankle bones? But quite aggressive Bigfoot sightings in that area. So who knows? From a crayfish, to a sea monster, to Bigfoot, to a log that can cause storms. The area could be full of supernatural events. Could be a perfect place for a serial killer to dump a body. But whatever the reason, I don't think I'm ever going to Crater Lake. It just sounds super spooky. Plus, I'm not a big fan of lakes. Who wants to be above something you can't see under? I guess that's called floors, actually. That was a clip from our daily podcast, Dead Rabbit Radio. Dead Rabbit Radio is available anywhere that you listen to podcasts. It's daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime news. If you want to hear the full episode that this clip came from, check the link below. Please like and subscribe. And hit that little bell, too. That does some magical stuff. Thanks, guys.